The first of our questions, comments has poured in, so let's get started. During the Christmas snowstorms, accommodation was made on the SkyTrain to increase the train frequency and hours, as well as some municipalities stepping up to accommodate parking for transit riders. The challenge was for those of us living east of Surrey, i.e.West Langley, who still needed to get into Surrey and the bus service wasn't adequate. What plans are in place to improve this situation for Olympic Games time, weather-related emergencies, or regular commuting times?
Okay. Well, that's a very good question, and I can respond particularly as a fellow resident of Langley, who I am. During those significant weather times, we have, for the games question specifically, on March the 11th, there's a whole cross-functional group of VANOC, which is the organizing committee for the games, the Ministry of Transportation, TransLink, City of Vancouver, etc. We've been working for a few years on a transportation plan for the games. What you will see that will come out on March 11th is a significant enhancement of transit during the games period. And if you live in West Langley, you will absolutely be able to get there. There's going to be more road clearing equipment available. So we've been speaking with municipalities to make sure that they're doing their part as well. So I think you'll see an enhanced road, and not only roads, but sidewalk clearing going forward. I think that's a learning. The municipalities themselves, who have the responsibility for the pavement that we all run on, are taking pretty serious, and they're all doing their own debriefs. But you'll see more trains. You'll see more trains. You'll see more buses. You'll see more of absolutely everything for the Olympic Games. So, in fact, we're going to be meeting with the mayor of Mayor Fassbender and his team to actually be discussing some of the Olympic plans, and so obviously very much focusing on Langley.
Okay. That was a point that I heard ad nauseum in interviews was, if transit can't handle snow now, what's it going to be like in the Olympics? What have we learned from this? What are we going to be able to apply to this, or do we just say this is one in a row for this kind of thing?
Well, I don't think we can assume it's one in a row. I mean, the world environment has changed. And I think we need to adapt too. So I've walked through a couple, the two areas, the three big factors that hit us the heaviest were these splices I'll refer to, the track switches, which we're going to have a plan in place for next year, and really in 5 cases we had 5 instances of falling trees. Now, one area that I haven't talked about, we also had some we call medical emergencies, and we had several of those go on during the session as well. So for those people who don't know what the term medical emergency is, it can be a heart attack, it can be a suicide, it could be a whole list of things that frankly really require our attention, and even at the expense of moving a whole lot of people. That I very much take the belief that it's be safe or be gone off the system, and we sometimes may have to absorb some personal anguish and frustration about a delay of some trains, but at the expense of somebody else who needs medical attention. So we're going to continue with that, absolutely. But that's right. You had another part of the question, I think.
Just going to continue on the Olympic theme here, because you are the senior executive in charge of games transportation from TransLink. Can you give us any idea? You mentioned announcements coming out next month. Can you give us any idea of what we can expect for being able to get around during that 2-week period?
Well, I think what you're going to see is, and I won't get into all the details of this, but I can tell you, if you're going to stand back, what you see today is the transit system for the game today, as we speak on whatever it is, the 27th of February, will not be what you see for the Olympic Games. Let me give you some examples. You're going to see a significant increase in West Coast Express. So if any of the people here today live out in the Northeast sector, you'll see that. What you will see is the Golden Ears Bridge will have opened in terms of mobility. You'll see the Canada Line will have opened, which will carry not 60,000 people on a bus system, but 100,000 people a day on a brand new rail corridor. You're going to see significant bus capacity added over on top. But what's the key that we learned when I was in Salt Lake, when I was in Turin, lived in Calgary at the time as a resident of the games there, LA and others, is there's a role not only that TransLink has to play and the partners, but what everybody has to play, right? So everybody's got a really important role for the games, right? So it's not unlike, you don't need the games to change behaviors. So
Right.
can you avoid peak times? Can you ride share? Can you telework or telecommute? One thing's pretty obvious for the games is the universities are all going to be closed for the games. So that's
Right.
out in the public already. So it's a way to alter fundamentally down the backdrop.
Right.
So
Reducing demand is going to be one of the big things, or managing the demand for transportation.
yeah, it'll be absolutely crucial. It'll be absolutely crucial. So you're going to see increased capacities all over the place. You're going to see reduced or changed travel patterns, and it's very common in most games. It's a very different time. When I was a resident in Calgary in '88, for example, the employer I was with said, hey, do what you can of the basic jobs you can. If you're a direct service provider, you've got to be there, and people will be able to get to where they need to go. But I was also down at Obama's inauguration. We went behind the scenes to see it just recently here, and it was very clear. Plan on longer travel times.
Right.
It's automatic. Just plan on longer travel times. So if it takes you an hour to get to where you got to go normally, plan on more time. Right.
And factor in some of the things that, like lineups, like security checks, those sort of things you're going to have to factor in that can cause a delay in your travel time.
Yeah, but those things factor in anyway. So let's come back to the weather we had. So one of the areas for me is we really needed the public's help and our customers' help in really dressing appropriately for the weather conditions. I mean, Drew, we had individuals out there who were, in a foot of snow in high heels or slipping. They were having trouble. They actually weren't ready for the weather. So it makes it very difficult on us running the system if people are slipping and falling or aren't wearing their winter boots and handling themselves accordingly. So that may sound trite, but the number one cause of our delays, in fact, is people holding doors on the trains for their friends.
Right.
Or etc. So there's a lot that we're going to do and are doing for the games, let alone normally now. That if you asked us, what does next year look like? It's dealing with those things. It's the trees, it's splicing, it's the track switches. But I also think that's what I'm hoping to also learn from here today is how do we communicate more with our customers? Is it too much? Is it too little? Is it like how do we get better? Right? Because I don't want to think that we've got the right answers, all of them. I think everyone's got answers that we need to try and see if we can factor in.
And that's a vital point too about communication, because we use a number of communications tools to get messages out about service situations, such as My Bus, which is the mobile transit information source.
Yeah.
We got an application on Facebook. We've got the Next Bus. There's all sorts of things that we're using to push messages out to people. Sooner or later, it comes to a time when, and of course, there's the normal terms of broadcast media too. So we do keep trying to push it out, and we need to hear too if anyone's got any further suggestions about how we can.
Well, and that's part of the day, the questions, right? So I'd like to get that feedback. What are the questions they have or suggestions for our own improving, right?
Indeed.
So we know. I mean, if you had asked me if we'd had the snowstorm 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I can tell you, even though with our problems, we also carried hundreds of thousands of people a day. We still did, despite the problems we had. Some of them longer than others. If you'd asked me 2 years ago how we'd done, we would probably have been shut down.
Right.
We've probably not been able to run. So we're never there until we've got it right all the time. And it's particularly challenged for us when we've already got a full train system, and now people say, you know what, today's the day I'm not going to take my car.
Right.
Well, a lot of people are coming to us because they wanted to rely on us, and I think, and rightfully so, because being on pavement's not a great day to be with the snow conditions we went through.
No, indeed.
So we get really what we call slammed with so many people coming when you've already got a full system. Now, the good news for next year is you're going to see 48 new SkyTrain cars in place. So the capacity, you're going to have about a 30% capacity lift this time for the next, maybe not quite 30% will be there yet, but the final cars of the 48 new SkyTrain cars will be in place. So the capacity side is part of this issue, not just the technical functional side.